Hey everybody, it's Tony with Big T Bariatric, and I'm back at you with another video. And today I'm going to cover this Vox article called "My Best Friend and I Bonded Over Our Fatness, Then She Got Skinny." This should be an interesting article. It was another one that was suggested to me by one of my subscribers, and I'm trying to understand. I've not read the article. I'm going into this blind. I have no idea why someone would need to write an article about the fact that somebody's friend got skinny. If you were my friend and you got skinny, I'd probably write an article celebrating the fact that you got skinny. I would in no way write it as if it was some sort of issue. But we're going to dive right into this article. I'm very interested to see what this person had to say about it. My best friend and I bonded over our fatness, then she got skinny. We both loved our fat bodies until she got weight loss surgery. Now, right off the bat, what is there to love about your fat body? What is there to love about it? Why would you bond with somebody to begin with over the fact that both of you are fat? Now, I understand how some bonding might take place because you guys got to sit around and just eat all kinds of garbage and whatever. But outside of enjoying doing that, what is there to bond over? Because you absolutely need a fat friend for some reason? Your need for a fat friend means that you're willing to risk the health and the life of the other person you claim is your friend? Because that's what you're doing when you're yelling and getting angry at your friend for the fact that she lost weight. How dare she lose weight? How dare she figure out her health? Why should she ever prioritize her health over your friendship? That's the way it's coming across so far. Of course, I've not read it. I've not gotten into it yet. So we'll see what it has to say. I was 18 the first time I met a fat sister in arms. It was my very first semester of college, and we immediately gravitated toward one another. Buoys in the choppy waters of an unfamiliar sea. Okay, you go to college, you meet somebody new, you make some new friends. That's a normal part of society. You go somewhere, you meet some new friends. Okay, yeah, the buoys of choppy waters of an unfamiliar sea. That's poetic, but hey, it's just how life is, especially when you leave the home for the first time and you go to college. That year, we became closer than either of us expected. I don't want to know how close. Both of us had been the fattest kids in our high school classes, held at a distance from classmates by the virtue of our bodies. We'd both hoped college would be easier, but most of the time it felt familiar. The desks that weren't built for us. Now, I've been to many schools where I was too fat for the desks. When I lived in Oregon, I went to Central Oregon Community College, and I remember just how difficult it was for me there at that college because there's a lot of uphill and downhill walking. It's a very mountainous area. It's right in the Cascade Mountains. And so, the school was in a difficult place for me to get around, and I had a hard time parking in a parking lot. And if you've ever been to any kind of school, you know the parking is atrocious. So the fact that I had to walk at almost 600-700 pounds from a vehicle I could barely fit in up a hill to get to a classroom through this massive, huge building, like that in itself was bad. But then I actually had to have a special desk put in at every single class that I had. Like it was one of those long tables with a chair and not a typical desk that everybody else was sitting at. That was embarrassing to me, having to have my own desk because I was too fat to fit in a normal desk. When back in high school, I was getting bigger and bigger, but I was able to fit in a high school desk. So by the time I went to college a few years later, I was too big for those types of desks. That should have been embarrassing. That should have been a wake-up call. That should have been something that you saw and then you realized that, hey, I'm too big for a freaking desk. Maybe I should lose some weight, and so I don't feel embarrassed. But instead of doing that, you're going to try to bond with somebody over your fatness. Desks have a lot of space in them. But if you're too big for that, you're going to blame the desk maker, apparently. Classmates who openly stared at our bellies and thighs. I've been there. The lengthy diet talk amongst classmates bemoaning the fat on their slight frames, 100 pounds lighter than our own. Yeah, people don't like being fat. People don't like being fat. Why do you take that as a challenge? Why are you offended by the fact that other people don't like fat on their bodies? It's unsightly. It doesn't look good. It makes life challenging. Just as you're revealing, it makes life challenging. People can look at you and see, wow, this person barely even fits in a desk. This person is out of breath walking. Like, why would I want that for myself? But you consider that offensive, probably. Professor's penchant for using obesity as a metaphor for capitalism and excess. Fat people do that too, right? Our bodies were always unwelcome, a stand-in for some paramedic or terrifying future. You were welcome there. You were welcome in the classroom. Nobody unwelcomed you. So what you did is you sort of separated yourself from everybody else because you imagined in your mind that everybody was making fun of you, and because somebody didn't like being fat, that somehow they hated you because you identified yourself as fat. That's the thing with a lot of these fat activists. They identify themselves as fat, so they wrap their whole lives around that identity. They have no other life, no other identity for themselves except for being fat. That's the life that they created for themselves. And so anytime somebody says, I don't like being fat, or maybe I should lose a few pounds or whatever, they take that as a personal insult. And it's ridiculous. In the face of all that, we made a radical decision. We decided to like each other, and we decided to like ourselves. We became two of the few fat people who no longer feared our own skin. There was such reckless joy in our time together. Reckless is the right word there, because if you decide that you're happy being fat and you want to live your life being fat, despite all of this huge paragraph, pardon the pun, this huge paragraph of all the consequences of your obesity making life more difficult for you in college, you've decided that you want to be reckless in your joy in your time together. Such fearlessness in our hearts, we learned of our thirst for understanding only as we slacked it. This is when I learned to love and admire bright and shining fat people, the ones who vibrated with joy. Well, every fat person vibrates. All they have to do is just hit one side of their belly and they vibrate all the way to the other end. Like, that's all we do is vibrate. Who refuse to reject their bodies as character flaws or moral failings. I've gotten into this before, and I know people disagree with me, but yeah, there is a major character flaw and moral failing if you decide that you want to be happy being fat, because fatness doesn't make you happy. You're just unhappy with the world. The ones who resist the diet talk, the conscientious objectors to bemoaning their thunder thighs and bingo wings, their rolling bellies and their wide hips. Yeah, this fat is making your life more difficult, but you're not going to bemoan those things. You're just going to embrace the fatness, right? The ones who wore clothing that was bright and tight and billowing and dark, whatever they felt like wearing. What is this, Dr. Seuss story? The ones who happily, loudly loved their size, the ones we were becoming. Let me be honest here. You were not loving your size. As I said, you were trying to identify yourself as a fat person. You got caught up in this fat activist movement that started going on while you were in college. And so you found no other identity except for being fat. And you found this other fat person who you're able to befriend. And so the two of you found solace in each other's company. And rather than change as the consequences got more difficult for you to live a regular life as a fat person, you decided to get closer and closer to each other and then force society to change for you. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. These, I learned, were my people. Why people want to identify themselves as one part of their personality and wrap their whole life around that thing, I don't understand. When we returned for our sophomore year, my friend told me the pressure had become too much. The consequences were catching up with her, as they do to every single fat person. She feared her partner's shame, feared more bullying from her tough love parents, feared the jeering her thinner friends had to endure when they spent time with her. So she got weight loss surgery. Good for her. Good for her for fixing it. She didn't like the consequences that her fat brought on, so she decided to change. And guess what? You probably had a major problem with it, I'm going to guess. I told her I was happy for her, and I was. No, you weren't. You're probably more jealous than anything, but you refused to admit it. She made a decision about how to engage with her own body. We'd often talk about how often our bodies were taken from us. You did every bit of that to yourself. Nobody took your body from you. You destroyed yourself. From unsolicited diet advice to fat calling, from unwelcome comments about our orders at restaurants to bullying in the name of concern. Bullying in the name of concern. People are legitimately concerned about you, seeing you getting bigger and bigger, seeing how difficult your life is, and they actually care about you, but you call it bullying because you can't handle it. You are so given into this fat identity that you consider anybody who tries to help you as bullying. Thinness was the only way she could truly end all of that. It wasn't thinness that she was chasing. She wanted to be healthy. She was tired of all this stuff that you call bullying. She was tired of it. She gave in to living a healthier lifestyle. But her body wasn't the only thing that changed. As she lost weight, so much more fell away. She gushed over her new straight-sized clothing and relished the femininity she now was allowed by those around her. Just because you're fat doesn't mean you're less of a man or less of a woman. Okay? People like people who feel more confident in themselves. Her attention drifted to thinner friends because guess what? She can do a lot more now. And so she didn't want to sit around in the bedroom eating bonbons and watching TV all day. She wanted to go out. She wanted to live her life. And so for the first time in her life, she was able to do that. So she met some people while she was living her life, while you want to stay stuck in your room all day doing nothing. This is something that I'm trying to change in myself. I am trying to get out. Every single summer, I tell my best friend Steve, I'm like, we need to do something. We need to go out and have some fun this summer. I don't want to be stuck in my room all summer long watching TV and doing nothing. And this is the first summer that I've actually been able to start doing some stuff. It's not where I want to go yet. Next year, I actually have plans to go tubing with my sister and her boyfriend. That sounds like a lot of fun. I didn't feel like I was ready for it this year, but I'm ready to go next year. I'm looking forward to living a life, getting out there, meeting some people. All the things that fatness stole from me, I'm looking to reclaim as I continue to lose weight. She grew out her hair and dyed it. Ooh, shame. At her thinnest, she started talking about how much she hated her thighs, even at the smallest they'd ever been. There's a lot of problems that come with fat thighs. Trust me, I know. A lot of chafing, a lot of looking bad in certain types of clothing. There's nothing good about fat thighs. That was how I lost her. Oh no, she wanted to change and dye her hair and didn't like her thighs. So suddenly you lost her because of that? Are you the one who started to push her away because she wanted to live her life and you didn't want to live that life anymore? She disappeared into the warm sunlight of thinness. I returned to the role I knew best, the fattest student in class, and I learned the quiet heartbreak of losing somebody who truly understood what it meant to live in a body like mine. You know what? You could have changed too. You could have also decided that you wanted to change your life, that you wanted to get weight loss surgery, that you wanted to go on a diet, and then you can continue to be in her circle. She decided that she wanted to live for herself. You wanted to stay in your fatness. You wanted to wallow in your grief. And so you would rather lose the friendship than decide to change your own life. You so relished the thought of being the fat girl. That meant so much to you, being the fat girl, the fattest girl in the class, that you did not want to change. You refused to change. So much about your identity was wrapped up in that it's disgusting. There's a quiet adjustment of expectations that come with being very fat. So you're not just fat anymore, you're very fat. You learn that you're unlikely to be welcomed where your body can be seen. No, that's not true. That's not true. That's a lot of stuff that we put in our own mind. We don't want to go out and be around other people because we just assume everybody's going to hate us, that everybody's looking at us the wrong way, that we're going to break the furniture, that we can't even eat a meal in front of people. I understand those thoughts because I still have them all the time. But it's all brain made. Like, we make up that stuff on our own so that we can feel like that we're the victims. In sports, acting, sales, communications, politics, you might apply for a restaurant job as a server and be offered one as a dishwasher. You might audition for a play and be redirected to join the crew. Like, yeah, life is difficult as a fat person. You're not always going to get the opportunities that you want. But guess what? If you had lost the weight with your friend, you would have been able to get that server job that you wanted. You would have been able to be more welcomed in communication and politics and acting and sales and all that stuff. Like, you don't see what you're doing to yourself. You're making yourself fatter and fatter to now you consider yourself very fat. So you're withdrawing yourself from society. You're making in your life more difficult, but now you're turning it around and playing the victim. And that's what you're doing. Sometimes people tell you kindly, sometimes cruelly. Sometimes you find out by seeing other fat people rejected in public, sacrificed as an object lesson. But no matter where you go, someone is always there to teach you a mandatory lesson that your success will always be contained by others' willingness to see your body. You've made your body to be seen by everybody. All these fat people are out there saying, I get to take up as much space as possible. So while you're up there taking up as much space as possible, now you're talking about how that your success will be contained by others' willingness to see your body. You're the one who's forcing other people to see your massive body. And you keep getting bigger and bigger, but then you just see the problem in that. Again, you're playing the victim here. In recent years, a handful of fat people have slowly but surely chipped away at the stone walls faced by fat people who want to be seen, who want to ascend to the heights normally reserved for those who have earned visibility through thinness. Why is it all about visibility? Why do you have to be seen? Like, you would think that maybe thinness would make you be seen less, maybe? But you get all the visibility that you want by forcing yourself out there, taking up as much attention as possible. You seem to think everybody's staring at you and watching you, but now you're talking about earned visibility. Like, what kind of visibility do you want? You are more seen than any thin person ever could be. As an adult, I've seen 2 women my size become household names. Gaborni Sibidi, a plus-size designer, Ashley Nell Tipton. To me, as a fat woman, these 2 had not just been breaths of fresh air, but indicators that more might be possible. That people who look like me could find their way into places we weren't expected and often weren't welcomed. That people who looked like me belonged in front of the camera just as much as behind it. It's extraordinarily rare to look up to someone with a body like mine. It is rarer still for these women to be lifted up in the media. That moment of seeing and knowing bodies like mine in the media became a fleeting one. Sidibe and Tipton both announced this year that they'd had weight loss surgery. Some, mostly thin body positive activists, have congratulated them for what they see as positive choices to benefit their health. That's absolutely what it is. They were tired of their bodies feeling that way, for it getting in the way of their careers, of it getting in the way of their life, the consequences hitting them at all times. And so they decided that they were going to make the positive choice to lose weight, to get healthy, to be healthy, to have better lives, and you are going to hate them for it, right? Others, mostly fat activists, have responded with frustration or anger at losing 2 of the very few fat people who have ascended to such great heights. Why do fat activists care if people decide to fix their size for their own health? Why? I don't get that at all. Why do you care what somebody else does with their own health if it improves their life and if it's what they want to do? Again, you're so much identifying yourself with fatness that you can't let anybody else live in health. You need everybody else to follow along in your misery, and it's disgusting. Those losses cut deep, not because of their individual decisions about their own bodies. Again, you're trying to tell people they can't make decisions about their own body. They have to stay fat to make you happy for some sick reason. But because it reminds fat people of how we're seen and often how we're forced to see ourselves. the ways we are expected to sacrifice our bodies for the comfort of those around us. They didn't lose weight for the comfort of everybody else around you. They lost weight for their own comfort, to save their own lives, to make their lives better, to be comfortable for themselves. Why can't you see that? Why can't you see that? I'm reminded of all that and what it means to lose someone you've loved and looked up to, the familiar drift of formerly fat friends into thinness. I'm bracing myself for the crash. This is one of the dumbest articles I've ever read in my life. You are mourning the loss of a former fat friend as if they had died. You could have followed with them if you really cared about them, if you were really their friend. You wouldn't have just let them go off into obscurity away from your life just because they lost weight. You only want to surround yourself with fat people because that's how you identify as a fat person. You don't see yourself as any other thing but a fat person. And so you only want to be around fat people. You want to create this bubble around your life where it's only fat people and fat activism and fat positive people. And it's just absolutely ridiculous because you are much more than your size, believe it or not. You offer much more to the world than your size in fat activism. And at some point, you're going to get to the same point that they all did. You're going to hit rock bottom, and you're going to decide that, you know what, it's not worth being fat anymore. It's not worth this activist movement. It's not worth identifying myself as fat anymore. You're going to realize it's time to change. It's time to get healthy because your body can't take it anymore. You're going to be tired of the pain, tired of the agony, tired of being treated differently, tired of not fitting in the world. But you've withdrawn yourself from society and then you blame society for that. And it's just stupid. It's stupid. People like this need to just grow up. They need to grow up. They're going to have to live their lives outside of the stupid activism. Anyways, guys, that's my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments what you think, even if you disagree with me. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care. I love you. God bless you.